NewsRadio WHAM 1180.
Good afternoon at 1:30. I'm Dan Moriarty on NewsRadio WHAM 1180. This news is service of Home Power Systems. Two F-15 fighter jets under the direction of NORAD launched to investigate an unresponsive aircraft currently flying over the Atlantic Ocean. Small plane departed Rochester with a flight plan filed to land in Naples, Florida. However, the plane's occupants did not respond to attempts to communicate. That aircraft continues to be followed by NORAD jets. No information yet on who is on board. The aircraft has since entered Cuban airspace. The NORAD fighters have broken off trail. FAA released a statement that reads, Federal Aviation Administration air traffic controllers are tracking a Cicada TBM 700 aircraft that's flying at an altitude of 25,000 feet southbound off the Florida coast of the Atlantic Ocean. That pilot has not been responding to radio calls since 10 a.m. The flight departed from Greater Rochester International Airport and was headed to Naples Municipal Airport in Florida. That's the end of their statement. Now, there are some unconfirmed reports that the plane may be registered to Buckingham Properties and owner Larry Glazer.
Breaking news on WHAM 1180.
The pilots of those fighter jets got close enough to see the pilot of the small plane unconscious and slumped over, windows frosted over as well. Reports are that the plane could run out of fuel at any time. At last check, less than about 20 minutes remaining on the fuel there.
The plane is currently at 25,000 feet, the altitude it's been at since it climbed out from takeoff, and it's heading towards Jamaica, but it's not going to make it if the fuel estimates are correct. So U.S. and Cuban authorities work together. We do know that the Cuban military put up a fighter jet as well. They tracked it. They also confirmed the same thing, according to 24/7 News, that they saw two people in the cockpit apparently unresponsive. We are following a national story with a strong local connection. It may be that a tragedy is unfolding right now, high over the South Atlantic. That 7-seat turboprop is registered to Buckingham Properties, the major Rochester development and redevelopment firm. Dan Moriarty is in with more.
Yeah, and as you said, Buckingham Properties, which has posted a sign on their windows outside of their offices saying that they are now closed. They'll be reopening Monday at 8 a.m.
Breaking news on WHAM 1180.
We have just learned that that plane that we've been telling you about, which left Rochester bound for Naples, Florida, and then dropped out of communication with air traffic controllers, has apparently crashed on the island of Jamaica in the Caribbean.
With continuing coverage, this is Rochester's news, weather, and traffic station, WHAM 1180.
We have, from sources, heard that Larry Glazer was on board that plane. He is a pilot, and we know that he was planning a trip to Naples, Florida, because he has got property there that he was looking to develop.
And we also know that Buckingham Properties did close for the day. They posted a sign on their door as well saying that they would remain closed until Monday at 8 a.m.
And reporters, including our own Todd Halliday, are down there. There's already a media watch staked out outside the door, hoping to learn whatever we can whenever they decide to tell it to us. We can tell you that when you look at Rochester's skyline, a lot of what you see is part of Buckingham Properties. They own or manage something like 13 million square feet of Rochester real estate space. They own the Midtown Tower that's in the process of being redeveloped and converted into a residential and commercial space. They own Xerox Square. They own the Bausch and Lomb building. They've been working on property management and development in Rochester since the late 1960s, and something like 60 buildings in Rochester, along with properties in Florida, all part of the Buckingham Properties empire.
And we do have our very own Todd Halliday on site. We will go to him from Buckingham Properties. Here's Todd.
Larry Glazer's company, Buckingham Properties on Alexander Street near Park Avenue. The employees believed to be still inside now with the blinds down, but there is a sign on the door, closed for the day, reopening Monday at 8 a.m. No one right now talking to any of us about exactly what they know officially.
Todd, thanks for that, and he's going to stand by there. We are going to continue to keep you advised and pass along everything as fast as we pick it up.
The latest right now, Larry Glazer's son reporting that he says his father and his father's wife were on board that plane. According to him, those were the only two passengers. So this, again, coming from the son of Larry Glazer, who is saying that Larry Glazer and Larry Glazer's wife were on board that plane, and they were the only two passengers. Again, the plane that was, according to the Associated Press, has gone down just outside of the island of Jamaica.
We have now been told, and it is confirmed, that that plane crashed into the ocean 14 miles north of Jamaica, finally exhausting its fuel. This was a very popular aircraft for corporate aviation use, Socata TBM 700. If I recall, that's a joint U.S. and French company that specializes, like Brazil's Embraer, in building business aircraft. This was a single-engine, pressurized cockpit turboprop. It can fly at high altitudes pretty fast, and it's a 7-seater, so it's very popular with corporate users. Fairly fuel efficient compared to a jet. We have now learned that plane has crashed into the ocean about 14 miles north of the Jamaican coast, with apparently exhausting its fuel and coming down. That 7-seat turboprop is registered to Buckingham Properties, the major Rochester development and redevelopment firm. And the owner of Buckingham Properties, of course, Larry Glazer, and his son now says it was his father and stepmother who were on board that plane.
I had just stopped outside Buckingham Properties office on Alexander Street, just opposite Park Avenue. There is a sign in the door, closed for the day, reopening Monday at 8 a.m. We still believe there are employees, as of the last time I was there about 8 minutes ago, in the building, but they aren't talking. The blinds are down, and no official word from any employees about what they know about the apparent death of their boss.
And this clearly directly affects the future of downtown Rochester, depending on how things are sorted out after this. He's been working since the late 60s on property development, ownership, management, and redevelopment in Rochester, and he is one of the driving forces that has been busy converting Rochester from its office and commercial use into its new duties as a residential space for empty nesters, and pretty successfully driving that forward. What happens to that now with, well, I can imagine an engine with a couple of cylinders missing for sure. It can't have a positive effect.
His optimism that was reflected in that story in the city paper was, I think, a bit striking for some folks who've seen, the city in decline in the downtown area over the years. And here's a guy who was buying, a big believer, I guess, in the future of the city. And again, your point is well taken. What will happen now with these plans without him to spiritually lead them along with his various partners?
Tweets and comments coming in, all basically adding their expressions of sympathy.
We're still working to find out if the mayor's going to have a statement and other city officials, obviously.
We have heard from Joe Morelli, the majority leader of the State Assembly, deeply saddened to learn of the unconscionable and tragic passing of longtime personal friends Larry and Jane Glazer.
To give us some insight and explanation, we're going to be joined by aviation expert from CBS News, Mr. Mark Rosenkirk. Sir, thanks for joining us. What do we know? What has happened, sir?
We're still very early, obviously, in this investigation. Reports came from the Jamaican government indicating that the aircraft did crash into the ocean north of the island. The Jamaicans will be dispatching search and rescue. Obviously, the U.S. is going to be very interested in attempting to recover the aircraft as well. But we really don't know what has happened, although we've had some preliminary reports from the United States Air Force, NORAD, that had two F-15s tracking, got close enough to see that a pilot had been slumped over in the cockpit and saw some frost accumulating on the cockpit windows, indicating possible decompression and hypoxia.
And last question, this is somewhat tangential, sir, but it seems that there was a pretty orderly handoff between our air forces and air forces of Cuba. I presume, are there pre-existing agreements or something along those lines, sir?
There are protocols. What I have found during my period of time at the NTSB is that safety really goes beyond borders, and safety and security in this type of a situation, the countries do want to work together. to make sure that no one is making a mistake and doing the wrong thing. People's lives, obviously, are at stake here. So aviation, and particularly aviation security and aviation safety, is something that is something which we have found cooperation around the world.
Mark Rosenkirk, we so appreciate your expertise and your time, sir. Thank you very much. Someone who worked intensively with Mr. Glazer in his projects in and around downtown Rochester is Ms. Heidi Zimmer-Meyer, the president of the Rochester Downtown Development Corporation, who joins us now. Ma'am, one, I'm grateful to your time. Two, I want to express my condolences. This was a man you knew well and had great admiration for.
He was, and I'm not alone. There are many of us who are devastated and in shock today here in Rochester. Many, many people who knew Larry for a long time. There are people in this world that have such an impact on the world around them that they are not replaceable. And I would say that both he and his wife, Jane, are among that special cadre of people. Larry, we worked very closely with, as we all know, had become a very significant real estate developer and player, had taken on some very tough, very important projects for the community, and had really created real value in buildings that had been empty and vacant before that. And he's been doing this for a long time, and I think his story is a blend of kind of brilliant, intuitive real estate acumen and kind of a gutsiness and a passion about the city and about old buildings and, reknitting the fabric of a city that's had its, we've had a tough go.
Air traffic control audio indicates the pilot knew that something was wrong. The nearby traffic prevented him from descending to a safer altitude at that original time.
The plane, believed to be the plane carrying Larry and Jane Glazer, was over North Carolina. The pilot called in to report something wrong to air traffic control in Atlanta and asked permission to descend to 18,000 feet.
900 Kilo November, we need to descend down to about 180. We have an indication it's not correct in the plane. Bye-bye. 0 Kilo November, descend to maintain level 250. 250, we need to get lower, 900 Kilo November. Working on that. Got a traffic 12 o'clock and 15 miles north on level 240. And have to get down, over 0 Kilo November, turn 30 degrees left, have to get down. 30 left, 900 Kilo November.
The pilot did not declare an emergency and minutes later was able to descend to 20,000.
November 0 Kilo November, descend and maintain, flight level 200, and you are clear direct Taylor. Kilo November, 900 Kilo November.
There were no more messages known to be from the plane. Todd Halliday, News Radio, WHAM 1180.